You are live.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors for March 10th, 2022. Present are Sharon, Janie, Patsy, Ralph, Moyna, and myself, Alex. I got a message from Mary Mann that she could not attend, and we'll wait and see whether Tom Cullen appears. So turning to the agenda, first item we have is approval of the minutes of February 10th. There'd be a motion before we consider any revisions. Anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? Sharon, thank you. All right. I didn't have any corrections myself. Are there any corrections anybody would like to make? Sharon?
I just have one. I think, let's say 5A, where it says Miss Benante said that. I think that was actually Moyna. It wasn't me.
So I'm glad, because I was like, remember that I grew up. Thank you.
I can't hear Moyna. Can anyone else?
Oh,
It's breaking up for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it says my net connect stable. I'm gonna walk around. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Much better.
I'm going to say I want to agree with Sharon. I thought that initially, but then I second guessed myself and thought maybe I didn't say that. Maybe Sharon did say that. I don't know. So
Where in the minutes are we referring to?
it's at
5A?
the end.
Okay,
Where my name says Miss Benante. I think it's the only time my name's mentioned in 5A.
all right,
That's actually Moyna.
okay. Morning, do you agree that was you?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's a friendly change. Any other revision? All right, if not, then all in favor of the minutes as revised, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye,
Aye.
and they're
Aye.
approved unanimously. Thank you. Any additions to the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, is there any member of the public? Kind of awkward with these Zooms to have public members come. All right, if not, then we'll move to item 5, President's Report. So first, I think we, as a board, would like to have a moment of silence in recognition of the long, long life of Cindy Leahy's mother, who I found out from Cindy is the person who encouraged her to go into library services as a profession. And I think we can not only celebrate her mother's long life, but thank her for giving us the gift of Cindy Leahy as well. So would that entertain any other comments before we have a moment of silence? Ralph, what relation was, was a relation by marriage to you?
Joan Bloom was my, she was married to my second cousin. Cindy's my third.
Okay,
So that's the relationship there. And she was 10 years older than I am. So I got to know the older members of the clan. But also she had many years working in the controller's office at City Hall. And you're more likely to meet her there than anyplace else.
well, you guys are a hell of a clan, let me tell you that. So thank you. So let's have a moment of silence in the memory of Joan Bloom. Thank you.
Could we get Cindy's home address so we can send her a card or something rather than an email?
Cheryl? Cheryl, I think you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can send it to the library or I can give you her home address, either one.
Okay. Okay, so when we have our moment of silence. Thank you. Next item is update on the capital budget. As you may know, the finance director did not recommend, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend two of our items, and neither did the finance director, which was the completion of the Sono repurposing project and the purchase of a new van. So I asked Cheryl to, bring together all of the materials that we had drawn up and submitted, and she did that. Thank you very much. And I submitted them in a letter to Mayor Rilling, to the president of the Common Council, Councilman Livingston, to the chairman of the Common Council Planning Committee, John Kites, and to the finance director. And there will be a public hearing. Cheryl, do you recall the date of the public hearing before the planning committee of the Common Council?
I think that date passed. They had the public hearing a few weeks ago, and then they had another where they just discussed the issues. I sent an email. No one was allowed to speak, but from my understanding, planning and zoning did recommend, after all, the funding of the Sono Branch project.
Good. Could you circulate something to us showing that? I never.
I don't have it. I just heard it. I don't have it in writing.
There's been, am I mute?
No, you're on, Patsy.
Okay, I keep losing. I'm in and out. I'm more out than I'm in this meeting. I don't know what's going on. Is anybody else having trouble?
It could be the connection, Patsy.
It's awful, but I understand that there's a new version of the budget out as of yesterday, maybe. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I think we should get it and see where we are and try to get the South Norwalk project back in. It's for our department not to get, and we need to push to get what we need.
Yes, we agree. Well, as I say, sent a letter to the mayor, Common Council president, the council planning committee chairman, and the finance director asking for these things. Cheryl, I thought that hearing you mentioned was about the setting the cap on the budget, and was not the hearing that the planning committee usually has about the capital budget.
It was done a little differently this year. The one meeting, there were two meetings on one night. One, they discussed the capital, and the other was a general meeting about setting the cap for the operating.
I'd be surprised if the Common Council adopted capital budget without a public hearing, letting the public speak.
I believe that's passed, Alex.
Okay,
Tonight, I believe we were all on the night they had the dual meeting.
That was March 3rd.
I don't remember the date. I just remember that that was the night
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was scheduled for a meeting at March 3rd, and then I heard it was canceled. But, this is, I'm very upset about this, that we, as a board, been stronger in our support of our needs.
Well, I sent the message to the mayor and the common council on behalf of the whole board.
You didn't send that out to Alex, did you?
Yes, I did.
it. You did?
I sent it to the mayor and to the council president, planning committee chair, and the finance director. I had trouble with that because it was a huge file in terms of the data density. But I'll be glad to forward it to everybody. We had all approved it as a group. All right, well, we'll clarify that. Anyway, there was no action item to take, just a report. So next is the operating budget. Sherelle, I didn't receive anything from you about how we're going to recommend the reduction in the operating budget as requested by the mayor. Do you have anything to present tonight?
No, what I sent, nothing basically changed. And we're okay, the library, we're okay with the operating budget.
Okay, did we have to submit anything in response to the mayor's request to reduce the budget?
No, Lamont felt that we had given up enough, the library, and I definitely agreed that we've
Okay.
given up enough, so no, we're fine.
Well, good. All righty. So there's no action.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Morna?
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused. So what stage are we at in terms of the capital budget? Has it been accepted, or I'm just not that clear on
Right
where
now,
we are.
Mona, it's the mayor's decision. The recommendations have been made to the mayor, and so now it's up to the mayor and the common council.
But we haven't seen this most recent budget that's going to go to the mayor, and we don't know if the library portion is, the Sono is in it or not. Is that?
So from my understanding, planning and zoning have agreed that it should be put back into the budget. I haven't seen any documents stating that as yet. I can definitely take a look and see if the budget, the version Patsy mentioned, is online.
Morna, it's been very hard to get updated copies of the budget on the city's finance website. I had to ask the finance director personally to send me stuff because it just wasn't being posted. I think they were either shorthanded in the finance department or they've had a new hire for the person responsible for keeping the website up to date. And I don't know whether it's improved recently, but there was a gap for a while and I couldn't find out what was happening and get a copy. Norwalk, as you may know, has a very complicated capital budget process. And it goes through used to be the planning commission, now it goes through the planning and zoning commission. Then it gets considered kind of in a partial way because the common council sets a cap on the city's tax levy, which includes debt service on the capital budget that is set before the capital budget itself is adopted. But customarily under the capital budget, there's no debt service in the first year of the capital budget. So it's a kind of a complicated situation. And as I understand it now, we're waiting so originally the Planning and Zoning Commission took out both the van and the second year of the.
Yeah, we talked about that last time, yeah.
Right. I understand now from Sherelle, Planning and Zoning may have put it back in. We'll try to find out. I wrote to the mayor and common council asking it be put back in. The mayor makes a recommendation next to the common council, and then in the end, the common council adopts the capital budget. You may recall last year, I think the mayor took out the last year of our digitization, and we got the capital budget to restore it.
Yeah, I remember all that.
So
I mean, I
think
guess I just, yeah,
waiting for that stage next is for it to get to the planning committee of the council. But it's good news if the planning and zoning commission put it back in. It's always a little harder to take things out than to put them in. So if they get put in, that's very good for us.
I just checked online and it's still the old budget from.
Number
February
7. Uh,
Or is it? Yeah, you're on your versions. Let me see.
Number 7 still? Cheryl?
So this is interesting because this version says version 2 of mayor's recommended. It's so weird. Hold on, Patsy. Let me just double check something.
I don't know if I can stay with this meeting because it's just crazy for me. I'm in and out every 2 seconds.
Patsy, if you turn your video off, do you think that that helps?
I don't know. I'll try. I went out and came back in.
Sometimes when you turn your
Twice.
video off, it helps with the voice and hearing. Like in the bottom,
I know. I'm hitting it and nothing is happening. Okay.
is that better? Can you hear
We'll
us better?
see. No, doesn't seem to be better.
Well, we can hear you, Patsy.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you just fine right now.
Maybe you can log off and log back in.
I did twice. I've done it twice.
Patsy, yes, it is version 7. Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
okay. I wasn't sure because I have a note here that says failed to detect your microphone, so. But yeah, it's version 7, so they haven't updated it yet.
Colin, is that you on the line?
I am.
Hi, okay, I didn't know you were present, so let's make sure Tom Cullen gets marked as attending. Thank you.
I had to make a couple of tries. What role does estimate and taxation play in that capital budget?
They play an early role in that they make a recommendation to the Common Council on the spending cap. So that takes
Sort
into,
of overall scope?
to take into account debt service, which is how the capital budget figures in there. And then I think they also get a look at it. I think after the planning commission, because the finance director makes a recommendation. I think that includes some consultation with the Board of Estimate.
So planning and zoning, then the finance director representing the city makes a recommendation after consultation with the Board of Estimate and Taxation to the Common Council?
No, I think he makes the recommendation to the mayor. And then the mayor makes the recommendation to the Common Council.
Okay. And estimate and taxation was in this process early, according to what you're telling me, if I understand it right.
I'm not sure exactly, again, what their role is in the capital budget per se, because I know that it's the Planning and Zoning Commission, which has kind of line item recommendations of what stays in and what goes out. And I don't think the Board of Estimate duplicates that process, but I could be wrong about that.
Aren't they the last people to see the operating budget if you go over to that estimate and taxation?
Yes, they are, except for the setting the cap by the Common Council.
On the operating budget?
Yes, but which include, say debt service.
Yeah, they treat debt service as an operating expense, right?
Yes.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the odd thing about the capital budget is that there's usually a 1-year lag before projects that are included in a capital budget for the next fiscal year start to incur debt service costs, because the bonds are not sold generally right at the start of the fiscal year.
Yeah, right. You're paying interest in arrears.
Yeah. All right, so we'll clarify that with but I'm still think that there must be a hearing coming up with the Common Council, because I'm not aware that was changed, but we'll have to check that.
I believe it should be on the Common Council's agenda for April, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think they have the public hearing with the planning committee before that. I used to be chair of the planning committee, and we had a capital budget hearing, and they did last year, which is how we got our digitization restored. All right, so anyway, at least on the operating budget, we don't have to make any further reductions, which is good news. Thank you, Sherelle.
You're welcome.
All right, the next item is the reopening plan. Well, as you know, the city has lifted its mask requirement. I think most entities are on their way to doing that. My concern, frankly, is that even without the mask requirement, which I never thought was the key item, the issue really is the vaccination level and the booster level. Last I read, Norwalk was somewhere around 35 or 40% for the population to be vaccinated and boosted. As you know, that does not include kids under 5. Sherelle, do you recall what the level is for kids
Yeah,
5?
Yeah, let me briefly look it up. I don't have it right in front of me.
Anyway, so the Sherelle has made a recommendation. It's in your packet that the library go to expanding the allowable number of programming to take place to 60 at the main library and 30 at the branch.
But in terms of people in the building at one time?
No, people in the room who could reserve the room for an event.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, I was going to ask this evening if we might be able to amend that, only because room bookings are really picking up. And at Sono, we've been getting room booking requests for 50 to 60. So I didn't know if anyone would mind if we maybe up the capacity for the main library to 80 and Sono to 50.
All right, that's an amendment Chair would like to make. I have to say I'm against 60 and 30. I'm certainly against 80 and 50, but I realize other people may have different opinions. I think we're at a real period of uncertainty at the moment, and I'm concerned about another uptick. There's another variant that's on the loose. I think we're at a point where it's neither very good nor bad. I would like to see us not start to expose either staff or other people to large groups where they're not wearing masks, they're not vaccinated, and in a closed space. Again, I realize there are different opinions about this. I'm not trying to voice my opinion to anybody, but I am personally not in favor of this yet, and I think we ought to just watch it on a month-to-month basis. So,
If I may, just add something. So in the request proposal, I did state that we will watch, and that, you know, this particular version is subject to modification. So, I mean, and I understand, you know, there's differences in opinion. So my request is really just to, you know, be able to get people back into the library. People are expressing interest in using the rooms. The room bookings were huge. And so that, you know, we're on the uptick again. So, you know, there are people, even though there was a big cry to go mask choice, most of the people that I do see in public still have their mask on. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And the
Sherelle, are you suggesting like the 80, 50? Does that mean just for the community room or across the different rooms that are?
will be for the community room at this point, for the community room.
Okay, so are the other rooms being booked out or not?
But those have limited use anyway, like to 1 or 2, because they're much smaller. This is more for programming and for meetings.
So it's just like in that large community room, 80 people. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Correct.
We got a feeling for the square footage.
So
You know, so you
for
got
fire code for the main library, it's, I think, 175, and at Sono, it's 130.
Cheryl, do you remember what the maximum was prior to COVID?
That's what it was.
That was 80?
No.
Okay.
So fire code at the main library, 175.
Oh,
Sono is 130.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so it'd be about half then.
A little less, yeah, less than half.
I'm sorry,
That-
Cheryl,
that-
are you saying that the fire code is for the room or for the
For the
capacity?
room.
For the room, okay.
well, cutting that limit in half seems like enough of a safety margin to me. I don't know.
And actually, it's a little less than half.
Yeah. Well,
wait,
yeah,
wait.
roughly.
I got your point.
Well, that's not quite the case. I mean, right now, there could be 80 people in the main library. It's just that they all can't be in the same room. The fire capacity is for the community, the big community room. And in here, Sherelle, I noticed it says that, I mean, do you expect people to stay socially distant in the main conference room?
You mean in the community room?
Yes, is that considered a conference room?
Yeah, well, we do have a conference room that's right off of the staff lounge. So we consider that either the multi-purpose room or the auditorium or the community room.
So I guess my question is, do you expect if we were to approve this, that people in attendance in the auditorium
Mhm.
would have to stay socially distant?
Yes.
And-
So I put in here that, you know, there are people who are still immunocompromised and people who may not be comfortable, you know, being around people who are unmasked. So, you know, at that point, we would, you know, ask people to respect social distance.
And will anybody at the library be enforcing that rule?
The guards.
The guard will enforce that rule.
Mhm. So now that they're not, you know, just, you know, signing people in and out and stuck to the door, they can walk around and monitor social distance or people who are not comfortable. being around people who are unmasked.
Well, I hope that were to happen. I'd be surprised if a guard were to tell a room of 60 people that they have to act differently than they're acting.
I think our guards are pretty, I think they're on the ball. And if we asked them to do it, they would.
I would like to say that the rest of the world has claimed that COVID is over, and having someone with an I have an immunocompromised child, we're not in the library. We're not in places. We've been completely excluded from things because we're not safe with people not wearing masks around us. And I don't think, it's unfortunate that we're left out, but we're not going to be in these big groups. And Alex, I think it's going to be really hard to keep people from going back to normal at this point.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And Sharon, I know it's really unfortunate too, but a lot of people will make that choice too. Whether they want to come and, be in public, because we haven't really even seen an uptick in people visiting or staying. They come in, get what they want, and they leave. So I think, the world people are just making that choice,
And people still wear their mask. I see people.
A lot of
wearing
people
their
are
mask.
still wearing the mask.
Yeah, so so now it's kind of like a personal
The choice.
choice.
Mhm.
If you feel comfortable wearing your mask still, then you still wear your mask. Because you're not going to get people to do anything now that they say you don't have to. There are people that won't, and there are people that will continue. So that is where we're at.
Yeah. Because the city made that call. So I don't know much what we can do really.
But I
Well-
do think once programs and things like that are advertised at the library, open, I think that I imagine that more people will be, they're obviously be coming for the programs, but it also sends a larger message, I think, for people to kind of come in, spend more time. I think that is going to send that message.
Well, Sharon, in terms of you're saying, what can we do about it? One thing we can do is to limit the number of people who gather together to reduce the risk. And Sherelle, it's true that if we adopt this, we can always change it. It's also true that if we don't adopt this, we can change that in the future. And I would personally rather wait additional time. Again, I think the issue is how to encourage more people to get vaccinated. And I don't think we're at the point yet where we can just say we reached the maximum and we can't do more to encourage it. And I think putting the word out, as I hope the city will, that encouraging vaccinations is a way to get back to normal. I know that the state is still continuing to require masks on school buses.
Mhm.
No, they're not up for this. Well, but we don't have on MPS, the kids are unmasked already.
Yeah,
And-
one of the reasons that happens is because the kids can't vote.
There's another part of this is that people who they don't go out and they
Right.
don't, but there are other people who have emotionally get out into society and feel like a human being again. So there are pros and cons, and the mental health issue for people being isolated is extreme. So I think being as open as we can is a positive thing.
And I agree that it's going to be a choice. People are going to, Norwalk is a pretty educated, people have sound minds. People will decide whether or not they want to be in that environment.
Well, from my point of view, we can, a lot of people can come in and use the library. The only question is whether we're going to allow 80 of them to be in the auditorium together at an event, unmasked, unvaccinated, and maybe socially distant. I don't feel that's safe, though I want all those 80 people to come in and use the library or go to the Blue Teapot, take things out, use the computers, and they can do all those things now. They can't. So I don't feel that we're preventing people from coming in the library. We're preventing large programs in one room by 80 or 60 people who are unmasked and unvaccinated. And I think that's an invitation to trouble right at this kind of delicate stage. I think, again, on a month-to-month basis, we may be able to start moving in that direction, but there is an expectation that this new variant may start to pop up, especially after the spring break at a lot of schools. I realize that may not necessarily apply to Norwalk, but it does apply to other places, and that's why I think this is premature. But again, I respect other people's point of view, and everybody gets a vote. And but again, these people can use the library. It's just whether we're going to allow 80 of them to be in a room together, unmasked and unvaccinated, for the next month.
These are all subjective probabilities, though, Alex. You know, does the health department have a handle on the vaccination rate for the whole town? I mean, that's
They
mostly
do.
where
It's
the
on the
library's
website.
clientele comes from. That's the first thing. And then another thing is, if anybody's had COVID and recovered, they got better immunity than vaccinations. And, you know, the CDC was assiduous about not publishing that stuff during the whole pendency of this virus. And they've just now awakened from their slumber and started to talk about it, as that's another cohort. Get vaccinated, or you got sick and got better and you're immunized, or you're a free agent, and or in a least vulnerable group, like you know, kindergarten kids. You know, they're that sort of thing. So I mean, all that has got to be factored into public arbitrage of this kind of stuff, and it's you know, you can. I don't think you need to be afraid of loosening up a little bit.
I think just to answer your question, the last time I looked, which was last week at the mayor's weekly description of the situation in Norwalk, I think it was somewhere around 37 or 38% of the
Wow, vaccination
and boosted. Yeah, 3 shots.
Alex, you're right. So I'm on there now. It's with boosted, it's 37%.
Yeah. And Tom, just a response. Look, I acknowledge it's
Gee, that's low.
yes.
I would have thought it would have been a little higher density than that.
Me too. I mean, that's why I agree with you. It is subjective. I just think right now we're at a point where it could go either way. I would rather err on the side of caution, but I acknowledge that other people have different points of view, and you know, that's why we get to vote on it.
Are we going to vote on this part? Can I bring up other parts that I wanted to mention in this reopening plan?
Sure. Why don't you? Well, I mean, what we'll be doing is voting on the plan. We'll take Sherelle's recommendation to go to 80 and to 50 as an amendment. We'll vote on that separately. We'll vote on any other part of the plan people want to vote on, and then we'll have a final vote on whatever plan as amended emerges from our discussion. So Sharon, go ahead.
One of the questions I had, and I think I've brought this up before, is the hours of operation.
Mhm.
And pre-COVID, we were open a lot more during the night, and now
Mhm.
it looks like we're open just one night on Thursday night. So for the main library, that's past 5:30 p.m. and it closes at 7. So I'm wondering, because I used to be a student myself and I used to use the library a lot to study. I'm wondering if you're going to be moving back to like being open more at night. Is that a possibility?
Yes, we would love to. We, not in this particular phase, but hopefully in the next phase, we'd like to open up another night or 2.
And also Sundays. I mean, pre-COVID, the library was open on Sundays.
Yes, yeah.
We've put money into the operating budget that has stayed in there for Sunday hours. That's one of our changes in the budget for the coming year.
I've had several people call me about being disappointed that they couldn't get into the library on Sunday. And
Yeah,
I don't know, that if that's a budget issue,
No, it's
And-
definitely not a budget issue. We just
And
need
it's
to
out.
make sure that we have staff, because we do have some people who are working from home. So I'm working with staff to make sure that we have the
so it's a
actual desk.
staffing issue.
Yeah, and to make sure that we have the actual desk coverage. And because Sundays are also optional. So I hope to revisit that in our next phase. In May, in preparation for the summer.
but we did put extra money into the budget for overtime for Sunday hours.
Yeah, the money is not the object. The money has stayed in there that we had, that was never taken out. Right now, it's staffing and making sure that we can actually open on Sundays, that we have the desk coverage.
Sharon, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I had received a call too about being open more on the weekday nights as well. But I guess we can wait till May. The other question I had was why services are being temporarily on hold for passports. I think that's been like that for all of COVID. Is that correct?
It has, and we hope to revisit that. Right now, again, it's staffing. Two of the people who were doing the passports that were trained, just they're not in the building right now due to health issues.
That's all I have.
But Sharon, just so you know, it's definitely on everyone's radar. It's something that we definitely want to get back to. We just need to make sure that we can successfully do it.
Yeah, it's a great program. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. And that's why I made sure to put in here temporarily.
All right, any other comments on the plan or any other recommended, questions or changes?
Well, I just have I don't know if this belongs in the plan or not, but it's kind of related. So we had spent a lot of time talking in previous meetings about, taking advantage of the outdoor space and furniture for programming over the spring, summer, and fall. And I'm wondering does that like fall into this or is that a separate discussion? I don't really know, but I just wanted to know if that's still kind of.
Outdoor programming?
Yeah, and
Okay.
having outdoor programming and having whatever we need to create that outdoor programming.
So it was really nice. We had at least, I would say at least 40 to 60 kids. I was looking right outside my window for a children's program out on the lawn. And we can certainly, if Cindy decides to begin the, her concerts again. So there's no hindrance to doing the outdoor programming.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it will be encouraged,
Okay, any other suggestions or? If not, then what I suggest we do is to vote on the expansion to 80 and 50. And then after that, vote on whether to change the current plan or not. So let me ask for your votes on amending the reopening plan to allow programming for adults in the community rooms of a capacity of 80 at the main library and 50 at the Sono branch, which would be an increase from 60 at the main library and 30 at the main branch that's in the plan before us. So glad to ask for your votes. So
Well, somebody
Tom-
make a motion and,
well, I think Sherelle kind of suggested it, so we'll accept that as a
Okay.
motion.
okay,
Okay.
so moved.
I do that not being on the board.
Well, it's a kind of a fine.
Okay.
Does somebody want to make the motion?
Yeah, I just did.
right,
Tom just did, I'll second it.
All right, Ralph seconds it. Then let me ask, do a kind of a quick roll call here. So I'm going to vote no. Ralph?
Yes, I'm willing to go for it because having used the room over the years, I know even if we sat 80 people in the community room, there's a lot of spacing between chairs. You can do a lot. That room, even with tables and chairs, seats 125 people. So I know initially, yes, we can do it for 80 tops right now.
All right. Janie?
Yes,
Moyna?
Yes.
Karen?
Can't hear you, Sharon.
Still doing that, huh? No. No.
Right. Patsy?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Right. Tom?
Yes,
All right. Then the amendment is approved by a vote of 5-2 in favor. So we'll now vote on the reopening plan with the program for adult capacity increased to 80 at the main library and 50 at the Sono branch. And I'll call for the same yes or no vote. So I vote no. Ralph?
Yes, I will vote yes.
Okay. Sharon?
No.
Moyna?
Yes.
Patsy?
yeah,
Janie?
yes,
yes,
Tom?
yes,
All right, then the reopening plan is approved by a vote of 5-2. Okay. Sherelle, next I wasn't sure whether you want to go ahead with the circulation policy, you wanted to hold a discussion.
Yeah, no, right now, no, I think we have too many questions on that one. So I'd like to present that next month.
All right, so we'll table that till the April meeting. Next would be the Wi-Fi hotspot lending policy. And again, it's in your packet, the proposed form. Sherelle, do you want to
Sure.
describe?
Sure. So the basic changes to the hotspot policy, since we do not have fines anymore, so there's no fines, but we have at 1 week overdue that the patron would be charged a full replacement cost of $280. And then the other change is we're finding that it's many of the same people that are taking out the hotspots. You know, they may return it closing time, and then they're there the next morning to pick it up. So it hinders other people from being able to check it out. So the circulation department's proposal is basically due to the limited availability of these kits. Patrons and all members of a single household are asked to wait 2 business days before requesting to borrow another kit. And the final is, I guess there's been some issues with either cords not being returned and then people saying that, you know, the cords that they didn't get it, you know, that they didn't have it when they checked them out. So I've asked staff to just go through it with the patrons to make sure everything is there before they sign the policy. And so that was added to the end. My signature below confirms that I've read and agreed to the conditions of this Wi-Fi hotspot lending policy and that all parts are included in the kit. So those are the 3 basic changes.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? I had 2 questions if I could. One is, what would be the kind of effective date? Would we say this begins April 1st or April 15th or, you know, March 3rd? I mean, I think we need to have some effective date because some people have these out now and didn't know about this policy.
So I guess with today being the 10th, we can make it effective March 21st.
Okay. All right, so let's consider that a friendly amendment effective March 21st. And second, um, uh, I can imagine a situation in which uh, somebody takes out the hotspot, returns it, and then for some reason, let's say either family or business or whatever, needs it before the 2 days expire, and nobody else has a claim on it or reserve on it or wants to take it out.
Well, they can't
Is-
be reserved.
Okay,
It's a
so is
first
there,
come, first served.
so is there any way, if it's not being used during those 2 days, for the person to kind of come in before the 48-hour waiting period is over, in case, I don't know what it would be, but the person might have some legitimate business or family reason to want to use, or school reason to want to use it?
I don't necessarily have an issue. I just listened very intently to the circulation department, and what they're seeing and what they felt was abuse. That people just, the same people are checking it out, and when others come in, they're not available. And because it's not, you can't reserve it. It's a first come, first served basis. We came up with this. Maybe we can amend it to 1 business day.
Well, my suggestion is we keep it the way it is, and then we see if that situation arises, and then we can maybe go back and take a look. But I was just wondering if that had been discussed at all.
No, basically the abuse, had been discussed.
Okay. All right. Other questions or comments?
I have one.
Karen?
I'm just wondering with the fact that you can take it out for a week, but then if it's late, you're not charged unless it's 1 week late. Does it make more sense to charge per day after it's due, like $40 per day, instead of waiting 7 days and then charging the full $280? It'll maybe encourage people to bring it back a little earlier.
Because we're fine free. I'm not sure that's a consideration, but being fine free, I wasn't. But yeah, so, but what, no, that was a very, very good question. But what I can tell you is that they do get a notice after 3 days.
Okay.
So it's 3 days and then 1 week.
Okay. Morning, did you have a question? I couldn't tell.
I just wanted, how many hotspots do we have? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my gosh, let's see, I think we have a total of 15.
Oh.
I think 5, that's, yeah, I think we have a total of 15. But 2 different options. One is a kit, and it has the laptop inside, and the other is just the basic equipment without the laptop.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So, Sherelle, if somebody takes out a laptop, don't they get a hotspot with it?
That's the kit, but they can also get the hotspot without the laptop.
Okay. And I forget, what's the situation in which if the laptop and the hotspot together are late coming back? Is it comparable to this or different?
It would be the 280. And this is basically for the hotspot kits are 280, but that's a good point. We may need to clarify the cost of the hotspots without the kits, but most of the abuse was coming from the kits. But I can add the cost of the just the regular Wi-Fi hotspots.
Well, but I assume the replacement cost would be a little less.
Mhm.
Okay.
So maybe we can approve or disapprove with the caveat that I'll add the cost of the what, just the hotspots alone.
That's fine with me.
So is it really like, is it just, it's not really only hotspot lending policy, it's like hotspot laptop lending policy, right? Because that, it seems like that's what people really want is both of them, so.
Okay, so the two changes would be effective date of March 21st. And then Sherelle will add a separate dollar amount for just the hotspot without the rest of the kit. Would there be any other questions or discussion about the policy, including those two changes before we vote? All right, if not, then subject with those two minor amendments, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I-
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Tom,
I
you're
was muted.
okay. Then it passes unanimously. Last item under my section is item G. So let me give a little background. We've been discussing the issue of the financial relationships between the foundation and other entities, including the Friends of the Library and Norwalk Reads. And we determined that it would be in the best interests of the foundation to avoid any commingling of any funds with those of the foundation, which is a 501c3 organization. The question came up during one of our little subcommittee discussions of whether or not the Friends and possibly Norwalk Reads would be allowed to maintain a link on the Norwalk Library website, which is owned by the city. So I agreed to contact the city legal department to ask whether or not it would be possible for the library's website to have a link to at least the Friends and possibly Norwalk Reads for people who want to make donations to those entities which accrue to the benefit of the library. And I sent you all a copy of the very thoughtful legal opinion of the city's corporation counsel, Mario Coppola, indicating that the city would allow the library to do that. There might be a possibility of questioning how do we decide who gets to have a link. And my response was that these two entities are linked only for the purpose of encouraging donations to be made to the benefit of the library through these other entities. So with that sort of legal and policy background and the fact that the city would not prohibit us from doing it, I thought it'd be appropriate to have this board, since we're the ones who sort of determine in the end what should go on the library website, approve having links for the purpose of encouraging donations to the Friends of the Norwalk Library and pending a further discussion later tonight to possibly Norwalk Reads. And that's why it's on here as an action item. And the link, as you know, would be simple indication on the website that those who want to donate to these entities can click on the link and get to those separate websites. It would not be a city website, not the library website. It would be the Friends of Norwalk Library website if they wanted to donate. And I want to thank Mario for promptly giving us a very, very comprehensive opinion. So would there be any further discussion of this issue?
I just have one question,
Please.
and that is, I don't know if you want to wait until the finances. Where would that money be going?
I think I'd rather wait to the whole purpose of doing this is so you can link onto their website and the money would go to them.
Okay.
It's a way of us avoiding any commingling, but yet not denying a donor who wishes to support the library, finding out where to make the donation.
Mhm.
But would at the same time, an additional link be to the library itself for donations?
Well, the library, of course, is a city agency, and yes, it would be possible
No,
to make,
To the foundation, not to the Friends.
well, we're talking about what would go on yes, the answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
I apologize. Thank you, Patsy. I should have mentioned that also. If not, that would somebody please move the action item?
Oh, are we still in discussion or not? Or we're not?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so, I mean, I never really thought of the library board as being in charge of the links that go or the content that goes on the website, but I can see in this case why it's come up as an issue. But so are we saying that like, when you say a link, you're saying like right now I'm looking at the website right now, it's under services of the library. Like, so it's like services and you have all the different things that the library does. And then it says friends of the library. And you go to, friends. And I don't see Norwalk Reads anywhere on the services section. So I just want to be
okay.
clear about like are we?
I wonder if I could we get to that during we have to have a further discussion about the Norwalk Reads that we're going to have during the
Okay,
foundation. And since
Moina,
we're
can
reading-
you see on the website a link to the foundation donation?
so for the Friends of the Library, it's like a PDF of a trifold. And who we are, library history, library hours, join us, and then you can do your membership. And so it's not even to a website, it's just to a PDF.
Okay, but that doesn't answer my question. Is there a clear link to the Friends and then also to Norwalk Reads?
So there is a clear link in the sense that on a page of library services, it says Friends of the Norwalk Library.
So Patsy, if I can answer,
So you're saying no?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a link on the services side. So I don't know if that's.
So that would have to be cleaned up, I think. Some of the things are a little willy-nilly and a
Yes.
little all over the place. So we would probably then have to just clean up and just have maybe, Norwalk affiliates or something, for lack of a better word. And then have a donation that goes directly, either the link goes directly to whatever PayPal or whatever account they set up, or to a website if they are updating their website regularly. So I think for us, on the library side, it would be just a matter of cleaning up any mention of, Friends and other places and putting it in one clear spot so people can see. Maybe it just says donations, and then people can see the Friends, they can see Norwalk Reads, and they can see the foundation.
Yeah, that's exactly what we'll do. And Patsy, you bring up a good point. We should add the foundation to this item. We've been so involved in the foundation and the Friends that,
That's what I heard, and so.
yes,
I
you're
don't
right.
think it is.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, good.
Take that as a friendly amendment to add the foundation to the other two entities that are listed there.
Mhm.
Like every month we can add or delete them as kind of the, so again, I take that as a friendly amendment.
So I just want to make sure, so that whatever link it is, we shouldn't have to do anything else if it's outside of Norwalk Public Library. So those entities will be responsible for their own bank account and
Yes.
keeping up, okay.
Yes. And we can go into more detail in the foundation. All right. Any further discussion? So could there be a motion to approve item G as amended with the addition of the foundation?
So
Can we
moved.
can we have an opportunity to see what this is gonna look
Sure.
like and vote on?
Well, why don't we vote to approve and then we'll take a look at how it looks.
Activated right away, or that we get to see it before it's activated?
Of course.
Okay, is that part of the motion or not?
Sure, we'll make that part of the motion.
Okay,
It's been a push to get this done quickly. That's where didn't want to appear to be holding anything up.
yeah, but we want to get it right too.
Right. All right, so the motion would be to add the foundation and to add that the board will approve how this appears on the Norwalk Public Library website before it is activated. Tom, can you accept those as friendly amendments to your motion?
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Already? All right, the motion been made. Any further discussion?
Is there a second?
I
Sharon,
second it.
all right, Patsy seconds. Thank you.
Okay, and then
Thank you. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's approved unanimously. Thank you.
There we go.
Good.
The Marcus of Queensberry rules.
All right, Mr. Seconds. You carry the pistols, Tom. That's what I'm worried about. Sherelle?
Yes, thank you, and hello again, everyone. So just quickly, our opera grant, the original, the one that the library got, not the city. All of our items are in. The mask obviously came in immediately. The chairs for the main library's children's department and adult department are in. The solar charger system is in, and the pod has finally arrived. However, it arrived without the right size door, and it'll be another 10 weeks before we can get the correct door size. But just so you know, everything is in and accounted for. Any questions before I go on?
Yeah, are the laptop dispensers part of that?
Oh, no, not part of this. The laptop dispensers, I believe last month we said they would be in by, we think for sure by June.
Okay,
So there were just a couple of other agreements that we had to sign, but we should be ready by June.
all right.
I'm sorry, any other questions? Okay, and as part of the pod arrival, I've started talking to others about telehealth. So New Vance Health wants to be a part of our kickoff. So Cindy, Luis Ayala, reference librarian, and I met with, oh gosh, I can't think of her name right now, Susan. I can't think of Susan's last name, but a representative of New Vance. And so we're talking, once, everything is up and running, having one of the doctors from the Norwalk Hospital kick off in having a lecture on telehealth, and possibly seeing if we can get a grant. New Vance is interested in having us apply for a grant where we can get, stethoscopes, thermometers, and things like that that people can use for the telehealth. And so next month we will be meeting again, and this time adding the Norwalk Community Center to the discussion.
All right. I think telemedicine and telehealth are very progressive ideas. I had the privilege to introduce the first bill in the General Assembly supporting telehealth way back in the 1990s, based on the way that AmeriCares was operating, the first telemedicine operational center at the South Norwalk Community Center and AmeriCares, and was run with the doctors at Norwalk Hospital. I'd have to say, you know, there are some risk elements involved in making available thermometers and stuff for people at the library in a telehealth pod that I hope we will carefully scope out with a good number of written protocols and agreements supervised by the hospital or the community health center, because this board, I don't think, has the expertise really to pass judgment on what's appropriate. And I want to be careful that whatever we offer will get used, and make sure it doesn't get used in the wrong way, or we end up subjecting the city to liability for some medical malpractice claim. So I've been supportive of telemedicine for many, many decades, but I also think it has to be done extremely carefully. And therefore, I hope we'll be getting some further discussions with these entities, Sherelle, and we may even need to have a board subcommittee or something being part of those discussions.
Any other?
Well,
questions?
there's two, well, okay. Anybody else go?
No, go ahead.
Two aspects. One is the physical, like Alex says about the you know, any equipment, any medical equipment that's going to be involved in this. And the other one is, where does this data go that's collected by this thing, and who? I mean, in the interest of you know, sort of data privacy, to the individual who uses it.
So we wouldn't infringe on their privacy, but as far as usage, the reference department would keep statistics on the usage.
Which department?
Reference, the adult reference.
No, I didn't understand that.
The adult reference department,
Oh, adult reference department?
correct.
Could you repeat? Tom, could you repeat your comment? I lost the internet for a minute.
What I said before?
Yeah, sorry, I missed it.
The two aspects of it are the mechanical one, which you already brought up, thermometers and other medical equipment, you know, properly used, and the protocols for their proper use. And the other one is the data. Where does it go? Who controls it? And how do you assure individual privacy for the users? You know, and this is,
Well,
I don't know, this is kind of right at the borders of the scope of library operations. To me, it's, you know, a little bit far afield, but.
So the
You know,
library has always been a protector of people's privacy, so that's not, we're not, you know, interested in usurping, you know, their privacy. It's just offering people who, you know, just say somebody has an appointment at Yale and they don't have the transportation, you know, to get there. They can walk to the library and perhaps meet, you know, with their doctor via telehealth. It was done pretty extensively during COVID. But we're not interested in getting in the middle of, you know, what the appointment is for, who they're seeing. We would just keep the statistics on the usage.
Yeah, nor should we be, right?
Yeah, but the library has never been into, you know, breaching confidentiality.
That's why I think these written protocols are going to be very important to going forward.
And I can't imagine like the telehealth provider hasn't really care. I mean, there are a lot of FERPA laws that I'm sure they have to be in compliance with,
Mhm.
you know, around patient privacy and
Or they
patient
would even
rights.
say that they can do this. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
And I have a quick question. I agree with what Alex is saying about everything. But as far as like the pods themselves, is it in our budget to have, like, who's gonna clean them and like, right? These are like pods, right? So you like, someone comes in, they're sick. They're gonna be breathing all over this pod. So like, I think there's gonna be a couple issues, but I like the service in general, but yeah.
No, I hear you. And our guys can clean. So that's a good point, Sharon. Maybe we need to figure out like what type of, cleaner we need, whether it's whether it's telehealth or anything else, but our guys can clean after usage.
I do, another thing that I wonder in terms of the health, just, this isn't directly related to the telehealth, but just, like, I wonder if the way that the library was involved in helping with vaccinations, if the library can do anything with around distribution of tests, of COVID tests.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just
Alex, I
a
think,
separate thing.
Alex, I think you brought that up to the city, I believe.
Yeah, we asked, well, as you know, we've offered the library and especially the parking lots for testing and vaccinations. I asked Lamont when he and I and Sherelle were on the phone whether they needed the library to distribute test kits, and he said no, that they had a sufficient distribution plan. And I saw in the paper this morning that their city is cutting back on the distribution of test kits and vaccination sites. And I just got in my email yesterday that the federal government is offering a second free shipment of 2 COVID tests to every mailing address in the United States, shipped free by the Postal Service. I know I got my original 2, I think about maybe a month ago, and I've submitted an email for a second 2. So I think it was a good idea. More at the moment, it doesn't seem to be a necessity in the city's test kit distribution plan. But we might want to also advertise that you can get free test kits from the federal government mailed at no expense by simply sending an email. I have to say it was one of the smoothest transactions I've ever encountered with the federal government, much better than the IRS or the court system. As a lawyer, I can say that. It was really easy to do, and they arrived. So if any of you need tests, I'd encourage you to do that.
I have lots of extra tests
Good.
that have come to me from many different places. I wish I could donate them somewhere. Like I knew where I could go donate them because
Save them. Well, my son comes in from California, and
just, yeah, give me a call. I have.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Sherelle?
So
I think Sherelle, I apologize. So I think you can hear there's a pretty significant level of concern about how this is going to be made operational.
Got it. Nope. We'll take it.
And again, the AmeriCares has operated a telehealth clinic. I don't know whether it's still going or not at the former South Norwalk Community Center, but they, I think, have a lot of doctors with experience in doing this.
Yeah, we'll be meeting with them next month. Any other questions? Okay, so finally, the placement of the solar charger stations. For the main library, we are looking to put it in the front near where we have the Divya, the plaque for Divya. So we're looking in that area, and it falls between 2 benches so people can sit and, if they need to charge their stations. At Sono, we have two places. One would be in the back, which is pretty sunny. And the other in the front, but we think it will probably fit better in the backyard because in the front, there's a tree and it might, block the sun. So in the backyard near the parking lot.
Cheryl, it seems like in the front near the garden for Divya, there are a lot of trees. Um, I assume somebody will see whether or not that's the best place in terms of sunlight,
Mhm.
or there's some other side of the building.
Yeah, we looked, we thought that the back was a little dark. That area is pretty light. The only other area I might think of would be the parking lot. The little island, but there's really no room, for people to, it would be a little convoluted because of cars and parking. But we can always get another opinion.
All right, and do you have a date for when you think these might be installed?
I'd love to do it ASAP. But, if we get another opinion, maybe within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. I know when I bought my house, it snowed on April 2nd, so as a precautionary note.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Any questions for Cheryl? All right, I don't think we have any old business at the moment. For new business, I thought we should talk about planning our next month's board meeting to have an in-person option. In terms of this month, again, due to my own concern about the health situation, I contacted Louise King, who's the assistant to the mayor, and Irene Dixon, the city clerk, to ask what other boards were doing. And she said right now, most of them are still meeting remotely. But she mentioned that the council, and I think the Board of Ed, Cheryl, have arranged a program with the IT department where each of them has their own kind of dedicated square in a meeting that makes it possible to have a combined in-person and Zoom meeting. And Luis said it takes a little bit of planning for the IT department. So I've asked Cheryl to contact IT to see if we can make that arrangement for the April board meeting. So whether or not we attend in person or virtually, we'd have as good a connection for listening and speaking and being viewed as the city has at the moment. So
The caveat would be, I believe that people need to bring their own device in person.
okay, it seems reasonable.
I think we lose so much. And there's enough space in the library that we could spread out 6 feet apart and function.
And have cooking.
Yeah, and we could, so I'm in favor of going back to real live in-person meetings.
Well, that's what we're going to plan for next month, Patsy, but we're also going to give people the option of zooming in. Sharon said she has a child with immune issues, and we don't want to make anybody choose between coming to a meeting or being absent. So we're going to try to make that option available. And based on what Luis said, and Cheryl, I don't know whether your experience on the Board of Ed is confirmed that that's a good option or not, but it seemed worth trying.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could, I also want to say that it's about accessibility too. for women, especially single women who want to be on boards and commissions. And I hope it's something that the city picks up on and keeps. I understand the importance of being in person. I think that's really important for those that can, but having that accessibility for, single parents is important.
Good point.
As a legislator, represented Norwalk and Westport, and the head of the League of Women Voters in Westport loved to come to all these meetings. And she had a small son who figured out that he could really leverage his position when his mother wanted to go to meetings. And he told me he got more toys out of the League of Women Voters by blackmailing his mother. Parents would really appreciate the option you describe as a way to cut down on their recreational toy costs too. He described it was very funny. Good. Okay, is there no further business? Then entertain a motion to adjourn and
May I bring one matter up, please?
please, Ralph.
It's really new business, but it's just a comment for now. As I've been asking for since COVID began, is planning eventually when we're going to have a book sale, and it requires the auditorium to do it. When you set up for a book sale, it's a 2-week segment from the beginning of the setup to the day you clean up. We normally would have it April, late October. April is out. There's no way to plan that. But I'd like us to consider I can meet with Sherelle and others just to plan what the auditorium would look like with spacing. It'd be something new. There might be less categories, but something to bring back to the board at a later time in which a lot of thought has gone into it as to how it actually could operate. See, right now, we're taking books in and they're being boxed, but there has to be a release on how you're going to get rid of them. And that serves the public, and it also is the principal fundraiser that we have every year. So I would like you to consider that we need to have a meeting ahead of time just to consider what the auditorium would look like, what kind of spacing we would want. The fact we're up to 80 people already is very encouraging. But I do think this is the time to start planning it, not for April, but thinking about October.
Okay. We'll try to get together and have a plan to discuss with the board next month.
Thank you.
Okay, Sherelle very kindly resent around the link for the Zoom meeting for the foundation. I think at 5:30 or 6 tonight. So instead of looking for the perpetual one, look in your emails for the link that Sherelle sent this evening. And after we have a motion to adjourn, I'll see you in 5 minutes. So is there a motion? Come on, Ralph, you
So
have made a
moved.
motion. Tom moves. Ralph seconds.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, see you in a few minutes.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom.